This is Ben from the Railroad Yard and Hubcap Hobbies, and today I'm in Gulfport at the Mississippi Coast Model Railroad Museum for their spring train show. This year's show featured several vendors selling a variety of model trains, and the Crescent S-Gauge Model Railroad Club was back with their modular layout. I personally had a couple tables, and this year I upgraded my display a bit. I got a couple of wooden risers so I could display all the interesting trains that I have to sell. In the next room over, the museum has some of its best layouts, and most of them were operating all weekend long for visitors to check out. There's no shortage of scratch-built structures and scenery. In addition to trains, the museum also has several display cases filled with vintage toys, many of them dating back to my grandparents' era or earlier. One of my favorite things in the museum is their standard gauge layout. Lana started making standard gauge trains right around 1906. Standard gauge, also known as wide gauge, is a little bit larger than the traditional O gauge. Just about everything is made from tin plate metal. Lionel made standard gauge trains up until the late 1930s before ending production. It wasn't until the mid-2000s that Lionel started to re-release some of its classic standard gauge trains. When I come across original standard gauge, it's usually behind glass, locked away in a display cabinet, but not here at the museum. The volunteers here know how well built these trains are, and therefore aren't afraid to run them. Their standard gauge collection even includes this ultra-rare monorail system, which, like all the other trains, is fully operational. Another great thing about the museum is that there's some very serious layouts here, but there's also some that are just for fun. This one has 2 elevated rail loops and several loops below, plus a streetcar section, all while navigating around the buildings, trees, and signs and everything. Who says chaos can't be fun? Across the street, the museum has its outdoor G-scale displays, as well as its ride-on train. Walk from car to car, do it in the movie. Hi there. The outdoor displays also included this Connects Carnival scene, complete with Ferris wheel, twirl-a-whirl, and roller coaster. And it seemed everywhere I looked, there was another G-scale loop running. Even though you're not going to see a super realistic locomotive and cars running here, there's a nice playful atmosphere to it. Back inside, the museum has more layouts and trains on display. Tucked in the corner are several display cases. Inside are some of the museum's oldest toy trains. Just about all of them are simple push or floor toys, but some of them date back as far as the 19th century. I find it fascinating to admire the craftsmanship that went into these old toys, in many cases over a century ago. Getting back to the 21st century, the museum also has an impressive collection of Legos. According to the museum sign, they have over 2 million Legos. And no, I did not count them. But by the looks of their collection, I'm willing to bet that that sign is pretty accurate. So that's the Mississippi Coast Model Railroad Museum. There's still a lot more to it than seen in this video. As of right now, the museum has 3 buildings, but they're in the process of expanding. According to one of the club members I talked to, they're about to get 2 more buildings. And that's what I really like about this place. It's like the museum has taken on the question that every model railroader asks themselves. If I had the time, the space, and the resources, how big of a train layout could I build? In the near future, we might have an answer for that, as only time will tell what the museum will come up with next. Thanks for watching.